All right. Metabolic vitality number 6.
6.
So 6.
6. Wow.
6,
Okay.
6, 2 to go after this one. So that must mean 2, well, it's 2 weeks to go. Wow, 2.5 weeks to go. So got a few things to talk about tonight.
Yep.
It's Women's Wellness Month, in particular endometriosis.
That's Endometriosis Awareness Month.
Endometriosis Awareness
but
Month.
It's on Friday. It is International Women's Day.
International Women's Day. And so we're going to have a little talk about that. And in particular, we're going to focus in on endometriosis and metabolic balance.
Yep.
To understand what that looks like, and transitioning phases within MB. From phases 2 to 3 to 4. So going to have a little chat about what that means in terms of your food list, in terms of how things go, in terms of weighing things, no doubt. So going to have a chat about all of those things and a product spotlight. We're going to talk about some whole body collagen. Find out what that means and what that looks like. So I don't take whole body collagen.
You should.
Maybe I should. So there you go. What did I learn about the skin the other day? What am I supposed to put on? What did Kerry say?
Retinol.
Retinol. I haven't been taking retinol. So there you go. But I have been putting sunscreen on.
You have been putting sunscreen on.
Very good. I've been putting sunscreen on each day. So there you go. So.
And what did you say to me in the car the other night?
I said that my skin was particularly smooth. And what did you say back to me about my mates?
I said, could you imagine having this conversation with your school friends?
No, we don't talk moisturizing amongst my schoolmates. It's back in my era, it wasn't the thing to talk about or to do. But anyway, it's a new generation.
To the next topic.
To the next topic, which is better face moisturizing? No. It
is talking about endometriosis.
Endometriosis.
So really just wanted to have a little bit of chat about endometriosis and why we should be talking about it to males and females. I know it's not specifically metabolic balance, but Sarah, when we sort of move through, if you wanted to kind of maybe sort of bring in a little bit about your history there. But essentially, so my day starts off on a Wednesday and I go to a networking meeting in the city, and there's 40 business owners, of which over 30 of them are males. And the room absolutely has what I would call masculine energy. There isn't a lot of room in there for female energy.
No.
So to stand up in front of that room and talk about endometriosis was actually a little daunting, but I decided that it was relevant to talk about in that room because it doesn't just affect females. It does affect males as well. And really kind of the way I looked at it. So it was actually quite interesting yesterday when we were looking at statistics. So past statistics, which is what we were still working off yesterday morning, was that 1 in 9 females is diagnosed with endometriosis. And I think, Sarah, you actually found the latest research and said that had changed to 1 in 7.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is incredible that there's that many people out there suffering with this condition. Now, there's no known cause. We don't know what causes this. We don't know why some people are more prone to it than others. What we do know is that it is a medical condition and it does need treating with medical intervention. So it's not something we should be ignoring. It's where we have abnormal tissue growth in the wrong place. The endometrial lining is growing in the wrong place. And what that can actually do is that can actually then adhere to other parts of the body. So it doesn't just affect the female reproductive organs, which is a lot of the time, but it can actually affect the other organs that are around it as well if it's left untreated. So surgical removal of that can also be part of the bowel part of the intestine, that sort of thing. So it's really important to get that checked. The other thing is that the one thing that I discussed in the room this morning is that we need to stop normalizing pain. And you hear it a lot from females that they get to their monthly cycle or their mid-cycle. And I certainly know even with metabolic balance, it's part of our questioning that we ask about menstrual cycle and how that is. And you ask people if they've ever experienced any pain or discomfort, and they say, oh, yes, but just the normal pain.
Interesting. Because
we've been taught that that's what it should be. We classify it as a normal pain. And there's different thoughts out there. I've always kind of gone from the thought of you shouldn't have pain, but then it's the way people experience that. So different people are going to have different tolerance levels. There's menstrual discomfort where you can actually feel the body ovulating and things like that, and the shedding that occurs through that time. And that's probably what I would call normal discomfort. But if there's any pain, if you need to continually be taking pain medication, then that's when you have to seek help. And we then had a conversation. So there's a couple of things that it's quite disturbing that we actually use this as a solution. So one of the solutions that gets talked to females, especially in that 20, 30 year age, is go and have a baby and that will cure your problems. One, nobody should telling anybody when they have a baby. But the other thing as well is that's not always the case. For some people, they do notice a difference after they've had children, but for other people, they don't. So to use pregnancy and actually having a child as a solution is just wrong. The other option is having a hysterectomy. So actually taking away then a female's ability to then have a child if it's earlier on in their life. And again, understanding what that means. And for some people, that might be the path they choose to go down, but it doesn't have to always be that solution. And I think the other thing is the use of the oral contraceptive pill. That's very much a go-to. You go to the doctor, you've got menstrual irregulation, you've got menstrual pain, and we will put you on the oral contraceptive pill. What then happens with that is that you suppress that issue while you're on the pill. And then when you cease taking the pill, a lot of the time, all of those symptoms will come back. So you've just put a Band-Aid over it. So just think it's really important that we all start talking about it and talking about it with men around as well. So it's not such a taboo subject.
Yeah. I mean, like basically, we're in the health clinic together, and obviously that's starting to be part of our world. So up until then, really, I mean, we have our daughter Lily, and so she has struggled with a sort of menstrual pain. And so, yeah, it's just that really has come to the fore recently. But other than that, there's not a lot of awareness around with the male community, really. So, yeah, I think it needs to be voiced more. Yep. I'm not sure as to how that communication's, going to be, apart from recognizing this month and then talking about it more freely. But we need to probably, I guess, have mechanisms or try to understand.
I think this is the start of it.
Yeah, I guess so.
Actually having those conversations and not being afraid. And probably what I'd like this to lead into, because obviously this call is about metabolic vitality. Although we can't cure endometriosis with food, what we do know is that diet plays a big part in inflammation and what can then happen. So, Sarah, are you happy to share your story?
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, I personally have endometriosis, had the surgery. Obviously, there is no cure, like Karen said. So even having the surgery, removing those adhesions, again, those adhesions grow back. Many girls go back for multiple surgeries. So pretty much with endometriosis, it's all about managing your pain, managing your symptoms and things like that. And yeah, food, diet, even lifestyle factors definitely majorly come into play. Endometriosis is an inflammatory condition. So obviously all of those anti-inflammatory foods, which metabolic balance, all comes into play with that. I personally notice when I'm sticking to the plan, pain is reduced a lot. Obviously, it's not curing it or getting rid of it completely, but I definitely notice a massive difference in like the lead up to your cycle, mid-cycle, just like pain and that kind of thing once following, that the foods on your plan. And I definitely notice a massive difference if I have especially alcohol and sugar and things like that. Then following even like the next day, the next week, I will definitely get symptoms like ovary pain, things like that. And it's definitely, I have like kind of tracked it to that. So they're major key drivers of that. So again, that inflammation and things like that. But definitely the foods, 100%, all helps in managing it as best as you can. And I know some girls out there have it really bad where they, have to spend like their whole cycle in bed, can't even get up, things like that. I'm lucky enough to not have it that bad. But anything that you can do to make it better, you definitely, it's a big relief. Just to get on with life.
And I think a lot of the key, and especially with metabolic balance, is like you said, it is those anti-inflammatory foods. Like the whole plan is designed around reducing inflammation, and endometriosis is an inflammatory condition. And I know a lot of people consider metabolic balance just to be a weight loss option or just to be for something else, but there are a lot of people that we use this for pure hormonal balance to help with those symptoms and give relief for that long-term plan with managing it. And like Sarah said, it's not about not having the surgery, because if that is the path that needs to be taken, then absolutely that's important. But the other good thing with metabolic balance is if you are having to have that surgery, you're reducing your inflammation before you go into the surgery. And then therefore your recovery post-surgery is going to be a lot better. So look, I love metabolic balance anyway. Everybody knows how much I love it, but I really like to see how it can impact other lives as well with that kind of thing. I guess my key takeaway on this is that anybody listening to this recording, anybody on the recording at the time, if you know somebody that is suffering with any kind of pain, or it's being kind of just temporarily managed, reach out. It doesn't have to be through metabolic balance. We have Nicola, who's a naturopath, who also does the women's wellness side of the business as well. There's multiple help that we can provide to help people with this, because it takes, I think on average, I think I read today, up to about between 6 to 8 years to fully diagnose.
Wow.
And that's 6 to 8 years of, I can't do maths in my head, but if we have a monthly cycle,
lots.
That's a lot of months that you're going through an extreme amount of pain before you actually get that diagnosis. And sometimes I think I've heard a lot of men say, I'm glad I'm a man.
Yeah.
And also money spent as well. Like,
does the government give support? Like, there
is a government initiative at the moment with endometriosis, but it really comes down to, I guess it's that first step of going to the GP and getting the GP to actually recognize it enough to actually then take you on the journey, rather than just okay, go away, take the oral contraceptive pill. And if you take that, there is a chance that your symptoms are going to disappear. So you may yourself feel that that's a cure.
But I think that Nicola makes the point, so we were talking about this just the other day, that it suppresses it. And then if childbirth is a consideration when you come off the pill, it is still there. It just comes straight back again, right? Yeah. And so you need to actually, so it really just, it's a, what's the word? It's not a cure.
It's a band-aid.
It's
just temporary fix. It's suppressing the symptoms that are there.
Yeah, wow. That's really fascinating. I think it'd be interesting to see what other awareness things are on this month, so that perhaps we could participate and try to spread the word a little bit.
Absolutely.
I think that would be a really good idea. So if anyone's listening to the recording or online, let us know if there's any major functions or anything, that it could be really interesting to learn more about that. And so, and Sarah, thanks for sharing.
Thanks, Sarah.
It's yeah, I think it's a really good and brave step to do. And I think, yeah, we're definitely keen to see how we can help. That's just that's really, really good. Wow, that's a heavy subject.
That's a heavy subject.
Vitality. So but good one. So I guess we're going on to, do you want to talk about the product, or do you want to talk about
the
phase
transitioning
2,
first.
3, and 4? Okay.
Yeah. So really want to talk about the metabolic balance process, but then the metabolic balanced lifestyle. So I have never classed metabolic balance as a diet. It is a lifestyle. It is the way I choose to live my life. So I live a metabolically balanced life. Now, when we get our plan, there is 4 distinct phases within that plan. We do the 2-day cleanse, which is very, very specific. And I'm sure we all have memories of that 2-day cleanse.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go into this phase 2, and I'll combine the no fats and oils part and the fats and oils part together. But essentially phase 2 is about resetting the body and getting the body working towards your goals. And those goals are not just simply, as I mentioned even previously, with just weight loss, but it's about getting your energy back. It's about getting your sleep in balance. It's about feeling like you again. So there's no real set time that we say phase 2 is going to last for 28 days, because that journey is going to be different for everybody. I've had people that have gone into phase 2 for 14 days, and then we've started transitioning. And then I've had people that have been essentially in phase 2 for a good 6 to 12 months.
I think one of the problems that probably metabolic balance has is, I don't think phase 2 should be lumped in together with a strict phase and a not strict phase. I actually think phase 1 should be the detox, phase 2 should be the strict phase 3 should be that phase that then goes until you reach your goals. Then, because phase 1, and there's no point arguing this, but this is, for me, it presents confusion. Because it was always, okay, cool, I'm in phase 1, that's pretty easy, that's the detox phase. Phase 2 is, okay, cool, I've done my 2 weeks now, well, excellent, I'm going into phase 3. No, you don't.
But if people read their plan, they would know that that wasn't the case.
Yeah, but it doesn't. I'm sure you guys, and you've got to be honest, how often do you, Sarah, do you trip over?
Yeah, there is a lot of misunderstanding of, cool.
There is.
Now I'm in, cool, I'm finished that. Now I'm into the next phase. Like, what can I add in? Can I get off these lists? That kind of thing.
Especially because
so why don't we
strict phase 2,
phase 2, phase 2A, phase 3, and phase 4.
But the thing about strict phase 2 is it is finite. It's 2 weeks by the books, because you need to get the oils back in your diet. Right?
And you're reducing exercise. There's a reason we're doing that, but you're still not at your goal.
No, I understand that.
So phase 2 lasts anyway.
Not 2.
Phase 2 lasts till you get to the end, to your goal.
Okay.
However, we should and can make changes along the way. Essentially, with phase 2, and I'll answer Katrina. Katrina's just put a message in to say, why is it only 1 protein per meal, and why can't you have the same protein in the day in phase 2? We're still working on a really good reset in the body, and all of our proteins, we give them what is called a biological value. And essentially what that means is that we have looked at the individual amino acid breakdown. They're the protein building blocks that the body requires in different balances to get the body to where we need to get it to. All of the proteins that we include, so a protein will have a biological value of 100 all the way down to 2 or 3. We only ever include proteins in our food list that have a biological value of greater than 70. And Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, because it's a long time since I've looked at this, but it's over 70.
Is she right, Sarah?
I think I can't think of the top of my head either, but
we will
Yes,
get a correction
I'll double
just for
check
me.
that. But
For the
essentially,
little guy.
what we know is that if we concentrate those amino acids, the body can start to repair and rebuild and get metabolism working again. If we mix our protein, so say we take a protein that has a biological value of, say, 80, and then we have a protein that has a biological value of 70, they both have different amino acid breakdowns, and it puts the if you combine them together, it actually then puts the percentage of the individual amino acids that the body's getting into a different distribution. So therefore, it takes longer for the body to reset. The reason we want different proteins throughout the day is because each individual protein, so beef and chicken and cheese, all contain different amino acids.
Okay.
So if we say gave the body beef all the time, there's probably other essential amino acids that the body needs that you're not going to be getting. But that could be contained in cheese or pulses or chicken. So your plan is actually designed around that breakdown as well, and that will be reflected in the proteins that you get. Once your body's built, once metabolism is working, we have more leeway with what we do to our body as well.
Interesting.
Does that help to answer your question, Katrina?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
So just to recap, then you're saying that the different proteins have different amino acids, but they have firstly that different biological value.
Yep.
And then they have different amino acids, which you want variety, so you can get that broad spectrum of those. And you also don't want to
dilute
or confuse the body. May not confuse the body, but you're diluting the
actual breakdown that we're giving the body.
Yeah, it's a good question. I've always wondered why.
Yeah.
You had to mix out. It gets really good variety, so that's what I like about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And variety is the key as well, because we know eating the same foods over and over again is not good for us as well.
Yeah.
So that's the reason behind that. But if I talk about moving from phase 2 to phase 3 to phase 4 and how we do that. So we're working towards our goal. And with metabolic balance, the one thing I say is that we're not telling you what you can't eat. We are telling you what you should be eating to get your body back into balance. So it's not about restricting foods. It's about giving your body an abundance of the right foods for you. So that's probably the first point. However, once we get close to our goal, once we've been doing this for a while, we want to start bringing other foods in. So we want to know what our body's going to enjoy, what our body is not going to enjoy, and what our body's going to thrive on. And that can be achieved in part of phase 2, but it's really when we go into phase 3. And in clinic, I quite often talk about 3 piles of food. So pile 1, that is your plan. These are the foods that have been selected based on your bloods, based on your personal preference, based on your history. We know these foods are right for you. I'll move over to pile 3. I'll come back to 2 in a minute. Pile 3 is what I class as non-foods. So that is your McDonald's, your KFC, your soft drinks, your Allen's lollies. Everything we inherently know is not really food.
Right.
You can't really classify it as a food. 2-minute noodles would be over here as well. So things that are highly processed and have very little to no nutritional value. But what we have left in the middle is this pile of foods that we need to know whether we can incorporate it into our day-to-day. So it really does come down to a bit of trial and error. And this pile of 2 should still be a pile of good foods. So we don't want to put things in there. So we wouldn't be putting cheesecake in here. That's still over in the pile 3. We can have it every now and again, but the individual components of that cheesecake, so the cheese and things like that, would be in there.
Is bread the most classic one that might go in there? Or would you consider bread a pile 3?
Bread's a pile 3 that can sometimes jump into pile 2. And that's what pile 2 is. And I'll explain why that's significant. So with pile 2, so say on your plan, you don't have Brussels sprouts. I didn't have Brussels sprouts on my plan. I love Brussels sprouts. When I was at my goal, I had Brussels sprouts and I didn't notice any difference in me. My energy was still good. I didn't get bloated. My sleep was still good. So everything that I had focused on in phase 2 was still working. Nothing had changed. So therefore, those Brussels sprouts go into my pile 1. I know they're okay for me. Different fruits, plums, peaches, different vegetables, different proteins. So cheddar cheese, I was absolutely fine on. That can go into my pile 1. Now for me, milk. So cow's milk, full cream, full fat cow's milk. I can tolerate a little bit of it. So I could go and have a piccolo, not have any issues at all. If I have a milkshake, I will get a postnasal drip. I will need to go to the bathroom a lot more. My bowels will just let everything go. So therefore, milk for me sits between pile 3 and pile 2. So if I have too much of it, it's not the right food for me. And if my body has that reaction, I'm not going to bring it into my day-to-day.
So it sounds like, and so this is phase 3, right? So sounds like you should concentrate on more whole foods that aren't on your plan and be bringing them in. So you're still not doing the process of the ultra processed stuff necessarily, and at all, sorry, and you should be bringing those ones through. And then if you don't have a reaction or listening to your body, we did the satiety video and listening to your body and all that, those things. So if you don't have, you know, any form of reaction, then arguably you can say, cool, that one's in. And I can just, you know, continue to have that occasionally and those sorts of things.
So it's really about trial and error. And what I sort of say to people is be mindful of how many foods you bring in at once. So if you don't have Brussels sprouts and beans and capsicum or like 4 different things in your plan and you bring them all in and then that night you have the worst sleep you've ever had, you've then got to work out which one it is. If you do bring them all in, which is not what I would recommend, but if you bring them all in and you feel absolutely fine, give it another go. Just keep sort of playing with that pile of foods to work out what is right for you.
Have you got any stories from your clients, either Sarah or Karen, that have gone through the phase 3 where you've had some form of either success or not success and they've recognized it, or you've picked it up? I know it's a hard question, and whether you guys get this a lot, but I come from pre-metabolic balance, and you using the words listen to your body, and you know, like for me, my body was so deaf and blind to what I was doing. For me, eating massive amounts of food and feeling full was my content feeling, rather than it was really my body should be screaming out at me going, what have you just done? So fast forward the clock to now, I'm quite different. I absolutely know when I've eaten the wrong foods. I don't know if I'm a you know, a total body whisperer when it comes to listening like that, but it certainly has improved. But for you guys and it's kind of like an aha moment for me, and I'm very different now, but have you guys noticed anyone in practice that probably have gone, oh dear, I didn't realize that could be a thing?
Yep. So definitely I had one lady that brought avocado back into her diet, that she didn't have avocado. She actually thought that she was allergic, had a really bad reaction to avocado,
Mhm.
and managed to bring it back in, had absolutely no issues at all.
Okay.
So because her body had done a really good reset, her body was creating new enzymes, creating new hormones, doing everything it needed to do, it was then able to process that food.
Right. So that was a case where
You brought something in that wasn't on your plan.
so pre that she was thinking that
she
in
couldn't
fact
eat
Avo
it.
was the problem.
Yes.
And then reset through phase 2. Okay, I'll bring a bit of Avo in, and no, obviously didn't suffer the same
Yep.
symptoms. And then it was like, oh, tick the box. That's a good thing. Okay, that's a really cool story.
I'm going to be honest, I very rarely find that people have an adverse reaction once they have done that really good reset in when they're starting to reintroduce whole foods. They very rarely have a reaction. The only thing that I have noticed is a lot of people have a reaction to bananas.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Also say tomatoes
Yes.
as well,
Oh,
just the
acid.
acidity.
That's
Yeah, I
interesting.
had one lady who brought them back in. Yeah, no, still can't process.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where was she before MB? Sarah, was she not necessarily identifying? Did she know that in herself the tomatoes were no? She just
No,
went home with
no.
no tomatoes on it.
Yeah, and then just symptoms
Introduced it
came back.
in, and
Yeah,
then wow, okay,
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah.
interesting, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the body's really powerful. I know that there's another participant in Vitality, I won't mention any names, but I know that she has actually found that through doing the process of metabolic balance and getting more in tune, that she actually has reduced her tolerance to eggs.
Oh,
So
shit.
she's actually starting to react to eggs where she didn't notice that she was doing that before.
Wow.
So the
No,
body's
it's
actually
the other way around
yeah.
too, right?
So the body's just set where it wants to be, where it's happy, and it's actually saying, you know what, I'm really not that happy on eggs. So therefore, and I'm sure there's more investigations into that. I haven't really had much of a chance to sort of speak about it fully, but yeah, the body will change all the time, and it will tell you.
One of the more interesting ones was wine, and we've got a friend that who we talk about a little bit, and she's okay with it, but she couldn't drink wine,
Red wine,
because it gave her sinus and couldn't sleep and
asthma type
hay
symptoms.
fever, asthma type symptoms. And then after being on the program, she could now then introduce red wine back in. So not that we're promoting that, we wouldn't promote that, would we, dear? No, not promoting that.
Oh, but again, so wine is one of those foods that sits in the pile too.
How's wine a whole food?
Well, it's not a
You heard it here.
It's not a
red
whole
wine.
food, but it's not a ultra processed McDonald's type.
Okay.
Absolutely
If you get a
no
good
go.
wine, actually,
It's
wine's wine, I guess.
but you have to work out what your tolerance to that wine is. So a glass of wine could be okay. You might have 2 or 3 glasses and feel absolutely terrible.
I think most people start to feel terrible.
That is that's another thing. I've had a client who used to like love wine, have multiple glasses, and now
Goes the opposite.
she can't even one sip, and she said, no, I can't do it anymore. The reaction is just too bad.
Alcohol at all, Sarah, or just wine?
Just wine. I don't know if she's tried other alcohol, but yeah, definitely just wine.
Wow.
But yeah, and she just doesn't feel like it either.
Okay. That's
it's just the way that your awareness kind of changes. And
it does. Yeah, that's a good point that you raised, that you're aware. Like, so pre-MB, I could be a fairly hangry participant. And if I didn't get, like I said, that for me, contentment was full. And if I went somewhere and wasn't able to have, say, a content meal, if I had to have salad, I'd get really quite cross. But now, post it all, I'm okay as long as I can just get a decent little serve of and the protein size that I have now compared to what I used to have was it's just chalk and cheese. Like, to go and have a 400-gram ribeye was smash it down, and then with other chips and all that sort of stuff, and then that was contentment. Now I could not physically eat 400 grams of meat. That's just impossible. And you might sort of look at it and go, well, it's 140 odd grams that I have, but cooked it's like 110. And so you look at that on the plate and it's like tiny. I mean, most steak restaurants, minimum 200 gram,
Yeah.
maybe 150 at a pinch, but so you're still leaving stuff on your plate. So it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. So
But yeah, good story.
that's kind of what phase 3 is about, is that reintroducing of other foods. But phase 3 is also about increasing different types of carbohydrates. So adding in potato, adding in
Phase 3 is.
phase 3.
Yeah.
Yep. So once you sort of transition, once you're at your goal, once you're happy, we're trying these other foods, but we're also adding in whole pastas. And I will always go to a red lentil pasta, a chickpea pasta, something like that. Couscous, quinoa, all of those things can slowly be introduced. However,
yeah,
you should look at your plate. It shouldn't replace something else on your plate. So you should still have a balanced, a metabolically balanced plate. And that probably comes down to the macronutrients. So you should have protein, you should have carbohydrates in the form of vegetables or salad. You should have your good fats on the plate as well. And then those additional carbohydrates that we have should accompany those foods. They shouldn't replace those foods.
but I guess getting back to Katarina's question earlier, some of those things are proteins, right? So like is a lentil pasta. I know we talked about this last week. Lentil pasta is not considered a protein.
It is a protein.
It is a protein.
Yes.
So you got to have caution then.
Yeah,
that
of
you're
not
introducing.
overdoing it and that kind of thing. But phase 3 is also about not being as strict to those absolute.
Well, sticking to your prescribed, like
Your
the
prescribed.
right foods for you.
Yeah.
And you're introducing more into learn more
So
about that.
if I were to have a meal with red lentil pasta, my red lentil pasta would
Would be the
be
protein.
my protein. I would then make a sauce out of the veggies and I may sprinkle a little bit of cheese or something on it, because phase 3, you can start to mix those proteins.
Oh, okay, right.
You haven't got to have
Within
the
reason,
single
and then you got to
protein.
test it as well. 'cause
Test
you wanna
it and
make
see
sure.
how
because you
you
hit your
feel.
goals, right?
So
Mm.
you're also not weighing food at this point.
Yeah, I was
And a
gonna
lot
ask
of
about weighing
people
food.
still do weigh foods.
I do. I religiously weigh my food.
A lot of it becomes habitual, but you don't need to.
No, you don't need to.
I can pretty much now create a meal
It's
and it will be pretty balanced and it will be pretty on point as to
Yeah.
what I need. The main reason for continuing to weigh food is so that you don't eat less, because you don't want
my
to
main
feel
reason to
under-eating.
actually my reason is to not eat more.
Yours is not more. Men
Yeah.
tend to be eat more.
Yeah.
Females will tend to go back to the eating
Really?
less. Yep.
Do you still weigh your food, Sarah?
Yeah, I do actually.
Yeah.
It's just a habit.
Yeah.
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 I mean, not every time, but yeah.
Yeah.
And especially if I'm creating a recipe, I weigh foods because
yeah,
that's a recipe.
That's a given. But like
But tonight we didn't weigh our foods.
no, because
We had salmon
Yeah,
and
that's
cauliflower mash
true.
and asparagus, and we knew what our plate looked like.
yeah. Last
So-
night we had an AI meal plan meal. We did a mozzarella infused kale something, and it was a really interesting meal. I liked it. It was a bit salty, but the like to weigh that, like we would have need a bowl. It's had so much like the main ingredients were kale and
Capsicum.
rocket
Okay.
and sauteed capsicum. But yeah, the salad stuffs was so light. And then the mozzarella was cut in small cubes and mixed around and all that. So it was really, really quite good, quite clever of the AI meal planner.
Yeah.
But I would have never guessed that weight.
No.
Like, and even
No, and that would have
even
been
then we
hard.
struggled to get it all on the plate. Like whereas it looked quite dense because the kale looked quite heavy.
But
if
a
you
lot
go
of
to
those
lettuce
recipes
or
as
cabbage, it's
well
heavy.
is normally one person. So if you create it for one person, then you know that that's your portion size.
Oh yeah, so yeah,
But-
if you use that, but
yeah.
just by sight, rocking up and saying, "Oh, I'll take some of that," like that was a hard
Yeah.
one to weigh. Just like a curry too,
It is.
they're hard to weigh.
So that kind of, hopefully that explains phase 3. And phase 3 just naturally transitions into phase 4. Phase 3 is about finding out what foods are good for you, what foods aren't good for you, finding out what additional carbohydrates you want to bring in, just generally kind of having a bit of play, mixing those proteins, but being able to maintain what you have achieved either through weight, through clothing size, through energy, through sleep, all of those kind of things. Once you have done that, you're pretty much in phase 4. You're following a metabolically balanced way of life.
Right.
And when I look at the 8 guidelines for metabolic balance, a lot of them still remain. So we still want to have 3 meals a day. We don't want to do snacking. We still want to have 5 hours in between our meals to allow the body to process and digest those foods.
Yeah.
We still want to have an apple every day because they're good for us.
Mm-hmm.
We still want to start a meal with a bite of protein.
Probably don't do that so much.
Yeah. We still want to finish our meal before 9 o'clock, so we have that good overnight fast.
Mm-hmm.
What you can start to do is adapt some of the, drinking your water is the other thing. That's the other thing I want people to do, is always drink their water. What can be then tailored is the mixing of the proteins. Sometimes if you had eggs for breakfast and you had eggs at dinner, that is what it is. Just don't do it all of the time, because you will end up putting your body out of balance. However, saying that, you're in phase 4, maybe you've gone on holiday, maybe you've eaten foods that aren't on your plan, maybe you've had a celebration, you're not feeling that great, go back to phase 2.
Yeah, which is really what metabolic vitality is.
So you can, which is what we do now. And it's really important to know that at any time you can jump between those phases. When we're not sort of on vitality and strict, I would say that Monday to Friday, we are pretty much 100%.
Yeah.
The weekends, if we've got things on and we go out for dinner, then we'll go out for dinner. Depending on what we have done and what we have eaten, come Monday, we're actually craving the foods that were our phase 2
refer
foods
to it as
again.
clean eating.
Yeah.
And it's right, it's habitual. It's so habitual the way that we now roll.
Yeah.
We've learned and changed it a lot.
And I mean, for certain people, there are always going to be certain foods that are not going to be right for them. So anyone with an autoimmune disease, we are automatically going to say, do not introduce gluten into your diet, because it's going to cause issues with
I think
what you
that
have.
people should obviously be checking in with
Yeah.
you guys.
Obviously check in with us.
yeah, they'll be
People
with
that
you
are
as well.
absolutely lactose intolerant, we're not going to tell them to go and drink full cream milk and things like that. So there's things that's certain foods for everybody that are going to be, obviously if you have a true allergy to a food, don't bring that back in.
Yep.
But just be mindful.
Cool. We're just about the time, but you were going to show off some
Yep.
whole body collagen and tell at least me what it's about, because I have no idea
Yep.
what
So-
collagen is.
The reason I brought the collagen in is, especially as females and as we age, our body is really made up of a collagen matrix. Our skin, our connective tissues, our collagen that has been created in the body, and it uses different nutrients to create it. It uses magnesium, it uses silica, it uses B vitamins. And all of those things have to be present in the body for the body to then create the collagen.
Mm-hmm.
So as we age and as our body has less of an ability to create what we want it to create, we can actually supplement collagen. We can bring that back in. So it helps with that rebuilding of that connective tissue, skin health. The reason I brought it on was because we had the discussion with Kerry about skin health, talking about female wellness, transitioning into that next age. And I do get a lot of people, and I'm sure you've had it as well, Sarah, that come to the end of their journey and they're really happy with where they are with their weight, but their skin isn't always where they want it to be. It's not as toned, it's not as tight as they want it to be. And a lot of that comes down to hard work at the gym as well, but also as well assisting the body, if you need to, with putting in a collagen to help the body to create what it's struggling to create.
So how's this taken and at what dose?
So that particular one there, that is a bovine collagen.
Bovine, that's a cow.
It is made from
Isn't it?
the bones of cows.
Right, okay.
Yep. There's 2 types of collagen that you can get. You can get a bovine collagen and you can get a marine collagen. Marine collagen historically has not been as effective as the bovine collagen. There's a lot of research now coming out to say that it is good. So I'm actually going to have a look into that to see what they're actually doing, how they've managed to do that. This one here, it is a clear white powder. You pop it into a glass of water. You could pop it into your coffee. You can sprinkle on foods. You can add it to your porridge. You can pretty much do anything with it. If you add it to water, you put it into water, you stir it up, and your water will go cloudy. Wait for the water to then clear, and then you can drink it. It does not have any taste at all.
Like how much? Like
it's a tablespoon.
Tablespoon. Okay.
Yeah.
Once a day.
Once a day. Was brought in very popular a little while ago with a guy called David Asprey, who introduced it into bulletproof coffee.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
On one of the other.
And that's when collagen made a really big kind of foray into the.
So is that the true bulletproof, or he just added it to bulletproof?
No, I believe he was probably one of the creators of bulletproof coffee,
Okay.
and he used an MCT oil, a collagen, and grass-fed butter and coffee. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, there you go. So cool. And like how
can you get it?
No. How do you notice like when the effects of it?
So I started to take it a number of years ago when I had hurt my back.
Yeah.
And my back pain was a lot of that connective tissue, and it helped with the healing and the repairing of that. I now just take it once a day in a glass of water. I don't need it like for acute pain and things like that, because it helps to rebuild. You can actually take it 3 times a day. There's no issues with that. Or I just take it once a day.
So I have with I have Vasica.
Yes.
Is it okay to mix?
Yes.
Vasica? And you said it go on your food as well.
Yep.
It has no taste. It
Nope.
puts on the food. Interesting.
There you go. Taste it.
Taste test live.
Yeah, it does have a scoop in it. Yeah, just.
I'm going to do that. It's ours. So. Yep. No taste.
Yeah.
There you go, live taste testing. How rock and roll are we? But yeah, you're right. Yeah, no taste. There you go. Whole body collagen.
Yep. Can be bought in health food stores, I believe.
Oh yeah, is there the typical Woolworths version or
Yeah.
supermarket version? Should be
So
worse,
I
but,
would say quality, as with everything supplement wise, quality is
and is
the
this a
key.
practitioner one?
That is a practitioner one.
Bit
We
dirty.
do stock that in the clinic. I think, look, I can't even remember. I think that tub is probably around $60.
Okay, cool. All right, so whole body collagen, transitioning through your phases, endometriosis. Thanks, Sarah, for sharing your story on that. That is wonderful. And that's what this month is all about,
Yep.
raising the awareness of that. And yeah, just seeing if we can also do things, what we can to help that cause. That's really, really cool.
Yep.
That's
Friday, International Women's Day. So big celebration to all the incredible females in our lives. I know Scott's going to obviously do something incredibly special for me on Friday.
every Friday is incredibly special, dear. Yes, so on that note, happy International Women's Day for Friday, everyone. And that's pretty much us for tonight. So, yep, thanks for dropping in. And thanks for watching the recording.
For the question as well, Katrina. That was amazing.
And that is week number 6, run and done. Well, will be this Friday. And 2 to go. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing you again next week, and which will be Monday night, which is this is the short one. It's only like 5 days away. So, yeah, and we'll catch up with you all then.
Amazing.
Nice one. Okay. See you, team. Thanks, Sarah. Okay, bye. Thanks, Katrina.